Okay, so this 10-minute offense is really good for day one, anytime we get back to it, anytime that we're um, starting up or need a reminder of what's important to us and what we're trying to do on offense. We want to play fast and we want to play physical. And that's all predicated on your alignment, your assignment, and your finish. Without further ado, let's get after it. And we're going to talk today about the history of the air raid, what that means to us. What does it mean to be an air raid team? I had a quarterback meeting the other day, and I asked about Mike Leach, and I know I reference Mike Leach all the time, but I realized it's been a little while since I really went into, what where the offense was created and our why. Um, Sun Tzu, famous Chinese philosopher from centuries ago, um, wrote The Art of War, and The Art of War talked about how to win battles both psychologically and strategically. And the best quote to pull from that, to talk about what we do, is when you're surrounded by a superior force, attack, attack, attack. When we started doing air raid back in 2017, and it wasn't what it was now. Um, we had players that played on both sides of the ball. We were slower, smaller um, than other teams, and we had less players. So, but now we're not there anymore. We're faster than a lot of teams. We have players that play on one side of the ball, and that's led to our success. Um, but also the determination of the players and the buying in to what we do. So we take this smaller philosophy and we implement it into a program of halves. And it's really paid off offensively for us. It was created back by two coaches that had to do it. They were at a small community college in Iowa called Iowa Wesleyan, and they had two players return when they took over a new program. And one of the players was the punter. So they had to do something that was unconventional, which is a common theme of what we do. And we want to be unconventional, which is different than everybody else. And even if a team starts running air raid in BC high school football, they will not be running our version of the air raid, or as unconventional as what we do. Um, and so what these guys decided, it's Hal Mummy and Mike Leach, they needed a solution to being able to unable to get the same recruits as their competition. So their receivers were 5'9", and the teams they're playing were having receivers that were like 6'1", and they're going up against these linebackers that were dominating their offense. And so how do you decapitate a linebacker? Well, you run a lot of crossers. Throwing the ball was not very important, or not. It was not stressed as much by other teams at this time. So what they're doing is they're stressing teams out by passing the ball all the time, by throwing the ball all the time at a high completion rate. Um, they were never going to be as big or fast as their opponent. And so they embraced being unconventional by reducing the plays they ran, running those plays faster than what the opponents could defend them at. And that means you got to reduce the amount of plays in order to play and not think, which is something that we talk about all the time. They're using the shotgun like all the time, running out of the shotgun. They were called crazy for that. And no huddle for the whole game, which is something they pulled from a former CFL coach, Don Matthews. So that's where the no huddle came from. But that was another edge to the sword they were swinging. And when they're spreading the not only the receivers out 2x2 or 3x1, but then also the linemen. And so the wider splits from linemen is also an air raid thing. So this is Mike Leach right here at Mississippi State. What happened was they went from Iowa Wesleyan to a school in Georgia, and they broke all the records at those schools, and they were at those smaller the NCAA school, or NAIA school was Iowa Wesleyan, and then Division II was Valdosta, and so in Georgia. And so what happened was they broke all the records to the point where teams would not want to play them anymore. And they got hired at University of Kentucky. We all know Kentucky is a basketball school. It's a basketball school, right? And so the athletic director wanted to bring up football. And so they hired these two unconventional guys, and they did very well there. They had a first overall pick from their quarterback. They broke a bunch of records. They were beating Alabama. They're beating teams that normally they wouldn't beat. Well, Mike Leach gets a job at Oklahoma, and then goes to Texas Tech, and then goes to Washington State, and then Mississippi State, and then ultimately he passes away a couple years ago of health conditions before he was truly able to hit his potential. But what he was doing at Mississippi State and these three underdog schools was he was able to overtake more powerful schools. Hal Mummy's son is now at Colorado State. Oklahoma State still runs a version. Oklahoma State still runs a version. Oklahoma U still runs a version. We see a pure part of Air Raid being run at USC, which is Lincoln Riley's the coach, who was a quarterback at Texas Tech. We see TCU. We see Washington Commanders, and we see Wisconsin all running Air Raid, and here's a collection of Air Raid quarterbacks. So the philosophy of Air Raid is we want to spread the field horizontally 53.3 yards by vertically 30 yards. And over that space, defenders, that's the formula of what defenders can't defend. So they can't defend all horizontally and all vertically in that space. So we want to make sure that we're spreading the field out and we're attacking all those areas. So that gives us balance, right? Because we can now attack what the defense gives us, and we're balancing that attack. We want to run the ball, we run the ball. If we want to pass the ball to the flat, we can do that. If we want to go deep, we can go deep. But balance in Air Raid is not, you see this stat all the time when you watch NFL. You have time of possession, right? Time of possession is not important to us. We want to score as fast as possible on every drive, with the exception of when we're up in the second half of the fourth quarter. We want 5 skill positions touching the ball equally. So a balanced offense for us is the X, the Z, the Y, the H, and the F are all touching the ball equally. That's really tough for a defense to defend. We're going to be aggressive. And Air Raid, they're more aggressive through the air, not only in the times they throw it, but also in throwing it vertical. A lot of Air Raid teams, most Air Raid teams will run a 3-day install. Some run a 4. But their entire offense is in, and all their concepts are in after 3 days. Hal Mummy, the creator, said that you have to have a great capacity for boredom, right? And that just stresses the importance of having reps. So if you're playing that new college football game, there's a bunch of Air Raid plays in there. If you use the Air Raid playbook or the USC playbook, you're getting a lot of Air Raid concepts. But these are our plays here, and this is what they're called in Air Raid terminology. So 6, for example, Texas is something we run a lot, and that's an Air Raid staple, not just running 4 verticals, but having the options to kill and tag off those. In Air Raid, all passing plays are progression based. They'll have a peak, 1, and a 2, and the concepts create a triangle, which zone defenses can't defend. Each play will attack a man in the zone coverage, and if progression is followed, the play cannot be stopped because they attack all defenses. Since less plays are run, that's when we get the we were able to play faster, and that's when we're able to be more efficient and get through our progression faster. Read defenses in open grass. What's our version of this offense? It's similar more to USC. Because of running the ball and that striving to be physical. We want to be physical. We will utilize a faster tempo than other teams. Our tempo is really closer to like the University of Tennessee, and just running as many plays as we can. In BC high school football, teams have overcorrected against the Air Raid. A lot of teams will run Air Raid concepts, but no one's actually running Air Raid the way we do it. As such, we're going to see light boxes. We're going to see 4, 5, 6 boxes. We're going to see, and we need to be physical in order to win games in November and December. One of the things that we've done to make sure that we're taking advantage of those light boxes is we've kind of boiled down where we're going to see 5-man boxes. We want to run trucks, 6-man boxes. We want to run a counter, and anything 6+ we can run lightning against that. We notice that our skill positions are generally smaller, so we stress speed and being decisive. It's not the size of dog in the fight; it's the size of fighting the dog, and that's what we want to make sure that we're doing here. We might not be as big. Our receivers are not 6'3", 6'4". Our receivers are 5'8", 5'9", 5'10". Wow, we might get a 6'1", but this is what we have. This is what we do, and we got to play with our heart. Our philosophy is we offer no quarter. That's when the pirates would attack and they are taking over that ship and no one is getting able to surrender and they're taking everything they want. That is what we do. We are no quarter. We do that by attack, 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 right? We don't stop. That means if it's the first quarter or third quarter, whether we're down or up, we are attacking. We are trying to score every single play. And we will do that by being physical and playing with tempo. And we want to drive to be the best that have ever done it in British Columbia. I think offensively we are we are the best air raid team to ever do it in British Columbia. We are the best no huddle team, but we're right now working towards being the best offense that has ever played BC high school football. But also the game of football in our province, which is a reachable goal. That's our offense in a nutshell. That's what the air raid is. That's how we're going to play physical, play fast, and win some games.